So, so I've got a good friend of mine coming on to, I guess, chat really about music, things, all things bass, and just what's going on right now. But I will leave Matt to introduce himself.
Oh, hello.
Yeah, this is Matt Dinnadge. He's a bass player from London and has quite a few good gigs under his belt right now. So we'll kind of get into that as we talk really. But this is a podcast, a talk, a chat really, recording during lockdown here in the UK. It's what is it, 4th of August now. So for if we're watching this back in a year's time or more, we can be like, what on earth was this that happened? And yeah, Matt. How did you get started with bass? Well, maybe we should actually start with how I ended up knowing you, because
Oh yeah,
we met through I was gonna buy a bass off you. It was
yeah.
the Lackland Darryl Jones, so I didn't end up buying it, but we just became friends after that, and then bumped into each other every now on the gig scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, rest is history.
Yeah, that was probably like 2016, 2017. I think it was in my second year of uni or something.
Yeah, I wasn't finished.
Yeah.
But no, I can't even remember. I don't think I was finished then.
Yeah. I feel like we were both at university or uni. But yeah, that was funny. Yeah, you coming around and trying out the bass, and I guess it probably wasn't. I don't know. I like that bass, but I don't think it was the best. Kind of like didn't feel that great, did it? That one. I don't know.
What? I love Lacklands, but for me, if I'm going 5-string, I think it's got to be active. The Darryl Jones ones are probably the best passive 5-strings I've played, but it's just not the same.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean. But yeah, that was funny. And then we just see each other around on like gigs and stuff. I remember I can't even remember where it was. I don't know what city it was.
I think.
Yeah, Leeds. Yeah, that was it. That's the one. What city
man.
do they do live at Leeds at? I don't know. Yeah. And then we just kept in touch, didn't we? Throughout the whole time. Yeah.
Yeah. So you got a big gig right now, but we'll get to that later. Why don't you just get started with kind of how bass became a thing for you?
Yeah. Well, I guess like music's always been around, like in the family. Like my dad played trumpet, my mum played piano, and my dad actually played bass as well. But he played a right-handed bass, left-handed, a bit like Mono Neon.
You know what? Yeah, people who do that, I've got respect because I'm actually left-handed myself. I learned right-handed. I was given a right-handed guitar as a kid, so
yeah.
That's that way. So yeah, people who play it the other way, my brain just can't work it out.
Yeah. It does. Yeah, it confuses me as well. But then my dad made a good point. He was like, "I'm right-handed, and so am I." He was like, so his idea was like all of the hard bits are actually in his right hand.
His strong hand. Yeah. So I have the same thing on bass my way.
Yeah. So like, yeah, that's just like funny because he'd play that upside down, but I'd play it the normal way. But I played trumpet at like school and stuff, and it was one of those things that I wasn't forced to do, but my parents were like, you need to practice. Yeah. And
were you reading
practicing.
at that point?
Yeah, but like reading, like I wasn't. I was rubbish at reading, and I think my tutor knew that. I was better at kind of picking it out and just copying. And so,
you know what? I used to play flugelhorn, believe it or not.
Oh yeah, that's niche. That one.
Really when I was about 13, and it was a similar thing. Like I could not read music at that point, not at all.
Yeah.
So I just pretended that I could, and I would ask the other band leaders how like a particular section went, and then I just kind of memorized it on the fly, and like I used the shape of the music to remind me. At that point, couldn't read it.
Yeah. That was exactly how I did it. It was more like the shape. And then there was this girl called Ellen who was like a really good trumpet player who sat next to me in orchestra, and we'd always be like first trumpet. And like she was amazing at reading. She was like amazing at everything. Yep. And I could just play trumpet. and she'd play it, and I'd just be like, all right, oh cool, all right, I've got it now, and end up playing it. But that was funny. Yeah, but if that's one of the things I wish I kept up, because I remember going to like a jam night. I think it was at like Troy Bar, and this guy just gets up and he's like slamming this solo, and I was like, man, that could have been me. Like if I really kept on it. But...
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Because horns certainly at the moment they're in high demand. Before COVID. Yeah, like horns, good horn sections. They seem to be in high demand and hard to find. Like, people that are available. So, but yeah, you're talking about Troy Bar. Let's talk about the jam nights, London jam nights. That sort of thing. Like, how often do you manage to get down to those?
I wish I could say all the time, but I think I've been to about 5 in my life, man. Like, I don't know. I used to go to Churros. I think that's how you say it.
Yeah.
I used to go there. I think I've been there a good few times. And ones that my friends used to put on.
Strict on the. It's not really a jam night anymore.
Is it? Oh yeah.
It's more like live music for the restaurant. So.
Yeah. There was like sick band and everything when I went, but I'd always have this thing of like jam nights. I go, the band's sick, everyone there's getting up really good, and I'm just there like, oh, I don't want to get up now. Like I'm scared, and then I'll have like 1 or 2 beers, and I'll be like, okay, I could go up now, and then it ends.
Yeah, that is it. It's an interesting thing though, isn't it? Because there's a lot of people now graduating or still at uni. And, they're told, get down to the jam nights, all of this. But it is really certainly in London, quite a bit of a lion's den, isn't it?
Yeah, like I've never felt, I've never been to a jam and felt like people were like, like looking like, oh, what's he doing? And like, oh, this guy sucks. Like I've heard like stories of like things happening, like people being like, right off, but like... But I feel like that that would have to be a serious train wreck for something.
It'd have to be bad, yeah.
So like but at the same time, like there's a million amazing players in London, and like they're all going to these jam nights, and everyone is just like absolutely killing. And so I find it was a bit intimidating going to those. And like I don't know, when I was growing up playing bass, I was like the only bass player in my hometown, and like. And when I went to college before uni, I was the only bass player that started playing bass before joining the course. So I was always like the best, even though I wasn't that good. So when I first moved to London and like going to uni, I was in like class with people who were like insanely good. And at first I was like, oh no, like, I'm not the best anymore. And it was a bit weird because I don't know, I'd never had to work because there was no one to be better.
That's it. Not much competition in that sense.
Yeah, so. And then like came to uni and saw people in London and like got on Instagram and watching people. At first, I was almost like, oh no, this is really bad. But in the end, it just I realized one, like it doesn't matter how good other people are. Really, like you're in your own. You can be yourself. And also, it just helped push me be like, oh, like. That guy's sick. Like, I want to be like him, and like, oh, I want to do that kind of thing. And I think with the jam night, like coming back to jam nights, I think that's really good because you see all these people, or like someone will play something, you'll be playing like crazy, and you're like, oh, I've heard this song a million times, and then like the bass player's playing something so cool and like different, and you're like, oh, and then you go home and you're like, what was he doing there? Oh, that's like, that kind of stuff is really important, I think, and I guess meeting people like jams and stuff. I've met a few people.
I think.
Yeah, it's like a networking.
Anyway, that's the best part. Just even because if you're not doing anything, just sitting, chilling, and talking to people. It's kind of like it's funny, isn't it? Because you can very easily end up in a particular bubble doing what we do, talking to the same 6 or 7 people, and then getting out to nights like that, it just helps you open up into new circles, I guess.
Yeah, and there will be people from like all these different circles that you wouldn't normally do. Like there'd be like rock guys, like jazz guys, and it's just all these different people that you probably wouldn't meet on say like a gigging circuit or something, if you're doing like indie or if you're doing whatever you're doing, you know. Yeah, and you get to see all these like really different players, and yeah, it's good. So yeah, I definitely recommend going to jams, but I'd say I'd never went to one really, like properly. I've not. I wouldn't
you
say
weren't active in the jam scene.
Yeah, yeah. The other thing with jams is that they happen so late, and sometimes by about 11, I just want to be in bed. And
I mean, I don't even live in London, so I hear you. But that's a funny thing as well, isn't it? Like with this whole music work, a lot of it is later hours, all that good stuff. So how do you find that in terms of
Yeah, well, obviously at the
managing
moment
your life? Really,
it's fine. Yeah. But yeah, when I was like last year or whatever, I was doing functions a lot and doing like just gigs with like Apre and people like that. And like the Apre gigs and stuff weren't that late. They'd be on at, you know, like 9 or whatever, like gig times. But then functions, yeah, you're getting home at like 4 a.m. from like 3 hours away, and you're really tired. And that I don't know, I just like got through it. Like when we first met, I was playing at like a church thing in Stratford, and I lived in Willesden Green, so I had to go like all the way to the other side of London for 8 o'clock.
Is this driving or on tube?
No, on the tube, yeah.
Oh,
and it would be on Sunday morning, so I'd get home from a function at like yeah, I'd like get home from a function at like 4 and then have to get up at like 6 or 7, you know, like that was awful at times. But I don't know, I feel like I'm quite good at just sleeping in, so if I have a late night, I'll just sleep in and kind of get better. But it can mess you up, man. I definitely, if you have say like 3 functions in a row, and then you have uni or you've got something else on.
Is it. I'll tell you what, my worst one was one function group I work with. We a really weird gig. It was an event for, I think, stadium events planners for football teams in like Premiership League. So it was at Man City at the Etihad.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So it was up there.
Stadium.
We didn't start our set until after midnight because they were running late, and then I had a talk at a school in London at 11 o'clock the next morning. So we probably wrapped up, like finished playing and packing down by about 4. And then I literally got an hour's sleep and then did the 4 hours drive or however long it is back from Manchester to London. Slept in a service station for another couple hours and then did this talk. And I was just like,
in front of like all these kids as well.
Yeah.
I probably would have had a breakdown.
I literally just come straight from a gig, but it's so good. You make it work, don't you?
Yeah, it's like one of those things. I guess you've got to be safe. Like I've done a couple of things where I'm like that was probably not the wisest idea. Like, I had a similar thing. I had a pickup. I used to do this really stupid thing where I wouldn't write down where a gig was. I'd just say like Apre gig or like Coyote function gig. And so one time I had Coyote function gig and a Apre gig the next day, and I was like, oh, it's fine. But then like got the gig sheets through, and it was like I had it was in York, and we weren't going on till like 1. And then Apre, because we were going to like Germany or something in a van, I had to pick up the drummer at 8 the next morning. So I basically like played the gig, packed down, drove straight home. Well, not even home, drove straight to the pickup point to pick up Robin, the drummer, and then just like went there. But luckily, because we were going in a van to Germany, I then had about 16 hours to just like pass out in the car.
Honestly, do you know what? I genuinely think this is something that we got to do better with driving tired, man.
No, it isn't. I'm pretty good at like driving, and if I start feeling tired, like I don't risk it. Like when I was younger, I used to be like, oh, just keep going, like, and that's just so silly. Like, yeah, you got to be sensible, because it's a car at the end of the day. Like, you're not just putting your life on the line, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, this is it.
And I'd rather show up late than not show up at all. So I can't remember who said that to me, but someone said that it's like you're better off showing up late than not showing up at all, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, I do. Honestly, man, I've had a couple moments myself where I was just like, no, I need to just pull up to a service station and sleep for an hour
Yeah.
because
Yeah,
you
yeah.
don't
It's
really, you
it's
don't really be
crazy.
hearing the buzz of the hard
Yeah.
shoulder. It's not good.
Yeah. No, I'm usually all right after like a function or something, because I always have a good time at like functions and stuff, and or gigs, and I'm usually driving home like, you know, like
Yeah,
listen to a podcast or music, just like pretty hyped
yeah.
up still.
What are you listening to?
Oh, God, that's a good one. I don't even know. Like loads of different stuff. I've just made these playlists throughout uni, and they always get to like 224 songs, and then I make a new one. So it's just like a big thing of
Goodness.
list. Yeah, it's mostly kind of like that neo soul R&B, jazzy, hip hop drums kind of stuff. But then like some of it's like hardcore, like metal, and some,
Well,
you know,
yeah, I was
it's
gonna
like
say that's not Apre vibes.
yeah, and then some of it's like that stuff. I listen to a lot of stuff, man. Like, every musician does, you know. Like, we all listen to loads of different stuff. At the moment, no, my favorite artist probably Kiefer. If you know Kiefer,
I do not know.
he's like
I have to check it out.
yeah, he's like a keys player, producer guy. He does like Dilla style, but with
Okay.
like really nice jazz piano, and he's just, the things he plays are just like, oh, it's just so nice. He's just he's really good, and it's not insane stuff. It's just so tasteful and lovely, and
Who's
he's
this?
just really.
How do you spell it?
So I think it's Kiefer, but if it's not, the E and the I,
Oh
flip
yeah.
those around.
No, you got that right. You got
Cool.
that right.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm saving that and I'm gonna check that later.
Yeah, that's definitely cool stuff to check out. And he does like live streams as well, where he's just like making music or playing, and it's quite cool stuff.
Wicked.
Yeah.
So you mentioned uni earlier.
Oh yeah.
Say more about that. Where did you study? Did you get anything out of it? Do you think it was worthwhile? All of that good stuff.
Yeah, so I went to ICMP, so like the Institute of Contemporary Music Performance. I think that's the official name of it. And I went there in like 2015, and I did the BMUS, which is like their, I think they call it popular music performance. It's like your beginner's guide of how to do a session based, but whatever, you know, that kind of thing. And it was good. Yeah, I liked it, and I met loads of people, like some of my like best, closest friends I met there. And I met like the Apre guys there.
Yeah.
And I definitely learned a lot, and it pushed me. I don't know. It's hard to say. It's one of those things. It's like, is it worth doing? It's like yes and no, because it's like, for me, this is all personal. Like everyone's different, but for me, it was like I didn't care about the degree. I didn't want the degree itself. Or I did, but like that was a silver lining to going and meeting all these people, and yeah, and so yeah, I'd definitely say like first year I learned insanely loads, because we had some teachers that were really, we had some that were like a bit more hands off, and we had one guy, Phil Mann, who's like, he does Scots bass lessons stuff, and I think he's doing his own thing now. And he was, I think he's an amazing teacher, and he would like, you know, you'd be like, you have to get this done by next week. So he'd say we were doing just the major scale, for example. And I thought I knew the major scale, and then I didn't, because there was all the modes and stuff that I hadn't really actually gone over.
That is it.
And he'd show you it, and you'd be like, all right, I've got it. And he'd be like, all right, cool. Next week, I'm going to call, you know, he'd be like fourth mode in A flat or whatever. And you'd be like, 1, 2, 1, and you just have to play it. So I'd go home and be like, oh no, I've got to learn it. Like, like practicing all the time. So that really helped. And then second year, I got a bit less into it, but more kind of, I was doing more things like anyone who needed a bass player at uni, I was like, yep, I'll do it, you know, and like, so it was more, I was less doing the uni side of things, but still in the circles of uni.
That sounds about right from my experience and kind of the people who left doing other stuff. A lot of them were getting involved in things whilst they were studying.
Yeah.
And, at some point there is sometimes that trade-off between, going to lectures and actually doing the kind of work you went there to study.
Yeah, and that's a weird balance as well, because it's like I was there, like I should pass this degree, like I kind of have to, because otherwise, like my dad was like, you're spending so much money to like, because there were times, I'll be honest, there was times where I wanted to quit and I wanted to leave just because it was a lot of writing by the end of it, and I was just there like I'm not here to write an essay, and like some people are like, some people wanted to do, some people might end up writing for music magazines or whatever, but I wasn't there to do that, and it became much more writing. And I guess as well, they're a university, they have to be approved by another university. And you can't just be like, oh, they played bass for 3 years, like they'll be like, well, that's not
there's a
degree.
certain amount of writing that has to happen for you to get the degree.
So I found that side of it a bit bad, but at the same time, it's the degree. Like, what was I expecting? You have to write. So yeah, like it was. I'd definitely say it was. I would say for me, it was worth it for sure. I think for some people it wasn't. For other people, it totally was. It's all like, it's a really hard one to talk about. I think like because I think people talk. I think you've done a video about it, haven't you? I think.
Yeah, I did one a while ago.
I watched that.
Where I stand, for me, I come from a background where my mum's a teacher and my dad worked in print, so I didn't have close family. That's a lie. I've got like distant family friends that do it, but not like people I talk to on a regular basis that actually, I didn't know people who were doing this as their full-time thing. It wasn't like I was surrounded by professional musicians like some people grow up doing. So for me, it filled in a lot of gaps in my knowledge that I'm still filling in. And also it was more actually being around, like you're saying, tutors who actually, were doing the job. They were actually, that is their full-time thing. So it's like, oh, actually, I can make money from this. And then that's how I kind of met people who put me onto different bits of work. So for me, I wouldn't be doing this music without it. But for other people, I totally, completely get it. I think if you go to music uni to be the best at your instrument, it might, unless you're at like a jazz conservatoire, it might not be the best use of your time. You're probably better off paying a pro in the style that you're trying to do.
Yeah.
Because the amount of lessons you can get for uni fees.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah, or just sign up to like, a course thing. Like you've got one of those, and there's like Scott's bass lesson, stuff like that. Like, if you're gonna be going to uni to do that, and nothing else, then I think it's much more beneficial and probably much cheaper to do it online or something else.
But like you say, it's for me, the value came in the people that I met. I was there.
Yeah, that's definitely the biggest part for me, was meeting all these people and just being surrounded. You're like, surround everything is music. Like, you'd go to, someone would be like, oh, I'm having people around. So you're like, a party, when you could have parties, like you'd go to like someone's house. Do you remember those days? Yeah. And,
we're going to look back at this and 2 years time, we're still in lockdown.
Yeah. Oh, hopefully not.
Hopefully not. I'll take it back.
But yeah, like everyone would be musicians, like everyone you knew. And like, it was weird going back home to like people that weren't all musicians, and I wouldn't know what to talk to them about and stuff, because I'd just be like, I don't, like, no one's musicians here, but like, that's massive at the uni is
and you know what, people. One thing I've noticed is musicians typically, they are just more open-minded people. It's not always true, but people have got, because you just, within the realm, usually people do a lot of different stuff within music, quite a social job, and it involves being around a lot of different types of people.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, then when you go back to your old, say, school friends and whatnot, they may not be on that same wave.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess it's just I just hadn't talked. I just like hadn't not talked about music for 3 years, and then
Yeah,
like you forget because everyone around me was a musician, and you just forget that not everyone does music, and not everyone wants to do music as a career. Like a lot of my like friends at home, they just like they all play guitar or whatever, and they love it and they're great, but it's just they don't want to do that as a job. You know, that's their hobby. You know,
because it's a hard job.
yeah. Well, and yeah, I think it is quite a scary thing to like jump to do that music thing. I guess like I was lucky at uni, and you get the like student loan thing, and like I feel like I guess I've had it quite easy compared to other people. Like worst case scenario, I wouldn't be homeless or whatever, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So I was able to like jump in head first and like not work for while I was at uni and only focus on doing music and stuff. I don't know where this was going, but yeah, like jumping in and doing music like that is like I think it is a scary thing. Yeah, it's a commitment. Like you're committing to, especially at the start, like probably not earn that much money and there's, I don't know, like I felt so lost at first, and I was so lucky to have a couple people around me that would like help me. Like I had, when I went to college, there was a bass tutor who taught for a bit called Dave Baker, and he was like younger at the time, obviously, than now. That's how it works usually. And so was I. And then we like kept in contact, had lessons from him, and he started doing the Ella Air gig, which then became like Ella Air. And he was like a role model kind of person for me, because I was like, oh my, like he was the first time I'd ever seen someone who wasn't my music teacher at school or my trumpet teacher. He was like a bass tutor who's like young, and I thought was like really cool. I still think he's really cool, obviously, but like he's like playing bass for like a cool artist. And you know, I was at first I was like, oh, this is like what I want to do. And then when I was at uni, he'd like be like, oh, my friend's looking for a bass player for a function, like can you learn 40 songs by Friday? And I'd just be like, oh, all right, yeah. And you know, like, so I was lucky in that sense as well, to have someone kind of like give me like all these opportunities with like function work and being able to actually earn money.
What is your
from
process
music.
when you get a massive load to learn in a short space of time?
Well, yeah.
If any, other than just
it's like at that time it was like stress, like total stress. I had my process then would be put it all on a Spotify playlist and not listen to anything but that playlist ever. If I was doing anything, I'd be like, oh, I want to listen to D'Angelo. It's like, no, Best of My Love. You're listening to Best of My Love. And like, you know, loop it, because I don't know, I learn songs better if I already know how it goes, if you know what I mean, obviously.
No, I get that.
So it's just that, and then just like playing over and over, because at that time it was almost every time I did a function gig it was like 45 new songs, like, because that's just how it was, I guess. So I'd write notes, I'd bring notes, I'd have them on the floor, like on an iPad.
What does notes look like for you? Or back then?
It wouldn't be like notation unless it was a rhythm. Like it would usually be like, oh, the song, this is the key. And then I had this, I still do this today if on like a new gig or whatever. I like write the key and then I write the first note just in case I have a brain freeze. And then I highlight it if I'm starting at the start, because I also had that thing where like I'd learnt the set and then the drummer would just be like, all right, like I want you back. And he'd be like, 1, and I'd just be like, how does this go? Like, do I start? So I used to highlight it in blue if I started. So I'd be like worst case scenario, I know the key, I know what the first note is, and I know I'm starting right away. So like it'd be like dun, and I'd be like, oh, like, oh, okay, I've got it down. Do you know what I mean? Instead of being like, oh, so I just have these like at the first few gigs I had like brain farts and I just forget songs and just literally have no idea what's going on. So I needed to have this like support thing of like, so it used to just be that. And then Yeah. And if I was really struggling, like if it was like 40 songs, I'd write out the structure, like, you know, intro, V, C, V, whatever, and then like highlight the bits I'm playing so I could like get through it. Or I'd do a chord chart. But nowadays there hasn't been a time where I've had to learn like 100 songs, because I guess I was doing that at uni, and then now mostly I'll at least know half the set usually.
Yeah, and it will just usually now be topping up or reminding yourself, as opposed to learning from scratch. But
and
go on.
I was going to say, I find a lot of function songs are the same structure anyway. Like, you're like, all right, well, it's going to be a chorus now. It's like, oh, it's going to be middle eight, you know.
That's it. I tell you what, though, the one different thing I had was Digby. You know Digby?
Yeah. Yeah, he was at my class at uni.
Right, that makes sense. Digby, I depped the gig for him for it was a function thing, and it was about 5 or 6 days before. It was similar sort of story. It's like, standard set. And little did I know, this function band, like, half the stuff is arrangements and medleys, and the first track in the set list was about a 9-minute jazz house medley with a bass solo section in it.
Oh man!
And I was like, standard function, my big song. But yeah, it was good. But I was stressing for a couple of days because I'm like, right, I'm gonna have to. Because when things are arranged, you know, like when people have got certain hits, you got to know the arrangement, or at least be able to read it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, sometimes arrangements can just be like, I've done functions where someone's like, oh, there's just like, it's an arrangement of a song, but it's just like this song and then that song with like just like stuck together. But then sometimes you get ones like at first I was doing like ear candy gigs.
Or should be on ear candy.
No comment.
I've never gigged with them, but I've heard different opinions. Let's say.
At the start it was really good for me because I met loads of people, and the band I was doing like the Motown Gold stuff. So like you're playing Jameson bass lines, everything's good, and I met a lot of from that one band that we were all in when like everyone parted ways. They ended up being like within the same bands again, or like, you know, we were all still in that scene. So it was good in that sense. And when you're starting out, like people complain about the fees and stuff, but like at that period, I was like, oh my god, like I'm earning massive, you know, like
Well, that's the thing. If you go from being someone who's earning, I mean, obviously the money's different now, but when I was in retail, it was like £6 an hour.
Yeah.
And, I mean, some people it still is, but yeah, if you're earning £6 an hour working in, I don't know, John Lewis or something, and then you're now off on a night earning 140 quid or whatever it is or isn't.
Yeah.
if you're now earning that from one night of playing music, that's a big shift.
Yeah, and that's what it was like for me. I was like, this is insane. And like people who would like dep it to me, like, oh, sorry, mate, and I'd just be like, what are they saying? Like, this is mental. And and I still am like appreciative of like even gigs like that, you know, like that's I was very happy I did that because I met some people that I'm still amazing friends with.
And you know what, it would have been good experience anyway, just because you still would have been getting to your feet, you know.
And it was just because they have this thing where like the people booking the band can choose the set list. So for that time, it was like every week was a whole new set list of Motown songs that are mental. And it was good doing all that stuff. I thought, it was fun. I do enjoy functions, man. Like I used to complain when I was doing them a lot, like 2 a week or whatever, or more than that. I'd just be like, I've got to play.
More than 2 a week is a lot.
Like I can't play Uptown Funk anymore. Like I have to, like. But then it, like now, or if I didn't do them for a while, and then came back to them, I'd have like the best. I don't know. They are something else. Like I don't think people not functions.
there's something about them, even if you are playing the set list every week, because it's a whole different group of people in a different situation, you just never know what to expect.
Yeah. And you can have bad ones. Like, I've had so many. There's been a couple where, like, literally, like, the families must have hated each other and, like, no one dances. And it's just, like, the worst night of your life because you spent, like, 3 hours and you was fed, like, a sausage roll. And, oh, man, those ones are bad. But, like, mostly it's just like people who just want to have a good time, want to get drunk, and they just want to dance and be stupid, and that is fun. Like,
you do notice the difference when the alcohol kicks in.
Yeah. If there's a free bar, it's like best night of your life. But yeah, I think functions are great, man. Like, I'd pay to do a function right now. Like, I'll put myself on a wedding. Just
honestly,
like, you know.
bro, I'm trying to work out a way to get a little amp out in the park or something. I'm gonna need something to start playing.
Yeah.
With others again. So it is what it is. But while we're here, then let's get on to your big gig, because you've kind of hit fame on Instagram now since getting your new gig. So you managed to bag a gig with one of the One Direction boys.
Yeah.
So why don't you just fill us in on that? How did that even happen?
Well, I guess that was. Yeah, it's still kind of I'm just like mumbling now. I guess it kind of came via that Apre guys in a way that I was gigging with them a lot, and like the MD for Louis was like doing other bands in the same scene. Yeah. So I guess
who's MDing from that gig?
Steve Durham.
Okay.
So he does, he does a few other people. Drummer as well. And just got a call from him, and I guess, I don't know what to say. It just kind of just happened, and then suddenly
did you have to audition, or was it simply a call of do you want the gig?
No, it wasn't that. It was like, I had to kind of audition, but I didn't audition in this traditional audition way.
It wasn't like loads of other people.
Yeah, it was like I went to like his and we recorded some stuff, and he didn't say, "Oh, this is an audition."
Yeah,
I think he was like, "Oh, come round," and like then I played a bit, and I thought I played rubbish and all this. I was like nervous, like and then then it just worked, and and it's just has been working. It's kind of weird because. Yeah, I just didn't expect anything like that to happen,
I mean,
and it's a really fun gig.
Which boy it is?
Oh yeah, so it's like Louis Tomlinson. Yeah, he's like releasing music, like released his album this year. I keep getting confused what year we're in right now.
Yeah, and the reason
everything's
I say that
blended.
That he's now Instagram famous is just because obviously knowing Matt before, you've gained what, about like 6,000-7,000 followers in that short time.
Yeah.
And then
they've got a really loyal fan base.
Yeah,
like
they really
the fan
do.
base is it's actually incredible. Like the level of like dedication that's like it's actually amazing.
Yeah, because correct me if I'm wrong. It's not like you're on the flyers or posters, is it?
No. It's not like. Well, like we're the band, but it's not.
Band, but it's not like it's not advertised.
But we're not.
It's advertised as Louis.
It's him. Yeah, he is. It's him. And at the end of the day, like we are the band, but then like I guess anyone else like might be in the band at one point. If you know what I mean, like it's him. It's a bit like the Apre guys. Like Apre is them too, and so. But they're just really like a loyal and.
The best part is the comments. So if you're watching this, I'm going to need you to go over to Matt's Instagram and just look at his posts and view the comments.
Yeah.
Got a lot of female fans now. So.
Oh no. Yeah. it's weird to talk about actually. I don't know. Yeah, that side of it's quite funny. They are mostly like sweet though, like just saying like we're so happy that everyone's going out, or they're just mainly just really supportive, which is nice. Or I guess really that's the stuff I see. yeah. Like they've it's insane. Like the level of that, and I'm not really like used to that. And the good thing is it's not about me, if you know what I mean. Like it's all about
so you can
him.
You can step back from it when you want.
Yeah. But yeah, that's like, I don't know. I'm just so like appreciative that I got to do that.
I mean, that's a great gig, man.
Yeah,
it's a really good gig to have, because you've been all over with that. Even in the last how long have you been doing it now? Just over a year?
No, it's been like since, I think it was like September, or maybe a bit before. We did a gig in Madrid. That was the first gig, and it was like the first one back. I think it was his first performance in ages, and that was in, I think that was in like September. And then I guess with the album coming out, it's been
ramped up,
busy, and and it's just been really amazing. And just even just the shows themselves, like I can't explain, like they, again, back to like the fans and stuff, like they are so amazing that all the gigs are just, there's just this crazy like level energy. They want to love it. They want to enjoy themselves there. And I just felt really lucky to just even experience standing on a stage with, and of like that size, because I've never done a big gig
I can
like
only
that,
imagine, because obviously do you know Sandy Beals?
Yeah, I know him. I don't like know him that well, but yeah.
Because he's like, he's not that much older than us, but he's someone that I kind of talk to quite often. And it's just like imagine doing that gig for the last 4 years, or when One Direction was what it was. Like, that's just insane.
It'd be
like,
insane,
insane lifestyle, insane just level of gigs. But like, you've been on UST. Which show was it you guys did?
We did like Jimmy Fallon, which was insane, because like the Roots are sitting there, Questlove's like looking at me. That way, he wasn't looking at me, but you know what I mean. Like, he's there, and that was weird. And I've done this, like, I don't know. I've been so. I do this thing where, like, if something's booked in, I try not to get excited about it until you're there. And I didn't really get that we were doing that show until I was like there, and I was like, wait, this is like, I've seen so many people play here. And we did the Today Show as well, but I'm not like in the UK, I guess that's not as massive or well known.
Out there, it's big.
Yeah. And,
what was that like in terms of live morning TV? What was the setup? Did you guys do a pre-recorded performance that went live, or was it literally like you're on?
I'm pretty sure that that was like fully, like straight on, like the Today Show on. I can't remember, man. So don't quote me on all this. I'm pretty sure that was like, they were like, right, we're gonna say like blah blah blah, and then you just go. And because it is, I think, pretty sure Today Show is like fully live throughout. Like the whole thing.
I think there's like a 7-second delay or
just in case like someone. But yeah, that's kind of, again, that's something I try not to think about, is when they're like, in any gig, if you're doing anything live streamed or like recorded or on TV or whatever, it's like, this has got to be right.
You know what? It's no different to a live gig, really, is it?
Exactly. Yeah. You've got
behind a screen.
Yeah, and it's just a different environment. Yeah.
You don't have the same energy coming back at you. I think that's one thing. Even with the TV work that I do, like when we're recording the series and stuff, it's being able to switch on that energy at like the drop of a hat to just get the scenes in, the performances in.
TV's a funny one, but it's always cool, and it's amazing, like being able to do something like that. And I don't know. I always just feel just like, I guess, yeah, just grateful that it's all happened. Like when I went to uni, like this is what I got to do before coronavirus. Like that was like what I wanted to do when I went to uni, you know, and I was just like the whole time. So basically in September when that first started happening, my Dave, that guy I mentioned earlier, who did the LA gig, he like was like, right, I'm gonna have to dep this LA gig and like, I want you to do it. Like, and that was my first, I was like, oh my God, like this is insane. Like first proper, and then that comes in and like, it's like 2 weeks later, we're going off to Madrid with Louis. And then it was just like,
man. I
did that gig.
I remember seeing it all come up on the feed, and I'm like, you're flaking off, man.
No, but
good.
It was just weird, yeah. Like going from just doing that first gig with Ella, doing that as a dep, and just being like, this is insane. And then like every gig from then was just like more insane, and just like, oh, this is crazy. But you've just like, I guess I just kept a cool head, and I don't know. You can kind of, if you take like all gigs seriously, like you can kind of prepare yourself for that moment. Like I was doing Apre gigs, some of them were like big gigs, you know, and like they're an up and coming band, you know. So some of their shows were like quite big, and we were supporting some like bigger guys. But I would take that gig like really seriously, and you know, like if they sent me the bass parts, I'd like really try and get them sounding the right, and like all the synth parts. And you know, like you've got to take all these gigs like they are, like you're playing for Beyonce or something, you know, like. And I guess you realize once you get rid of all the people who are in front of you, all the gigs are like the same kind of thing, as long as you're totally on top of it. And you know, I don't know, there's not much difference in playing like a massive venue to a small venue, apart from the amount of people that are in there, if that makes sense. No, and the fear of like, there's so many people here.
Do you know what I've found that smaller audiences are more nerve-wracking than big audiences.
Yeah.
Once you get above a certain number, once you start hitting 4 figures of people upwards, it's like people just more turn into specks in the distance.
Yeah. I don't think your brain can comprehend it either. It's just like, oh.
Like, but when it's like, say, 200 people and you can see every one of the faces, that's a lot more nerve-wracking for me.
Yeah, definitely. And it is, I love like gigs
it's
like
more
that.
Intimate.
Yeah, definitely. And especially at things like uni, there's like 25 people in the classroom, but they're all like, they all know the song. That would like, you know, that's the scariest thing ever.
That 16th note.
Yeah. Oh, those like that kind of thing is scary. Or like auditions, stuff like that. That's the scariest.
Have you had any audition mishaps?
Not really. Like, I've only really done like a couple. And they've all gone. One was like bad. Like, it was ages ago. First year of uni, I got this audition for someone, and I went out with my friends because they were like, "Oh, it's on Saturday," and I was like, "Cool, like musicians. It'll be like 4 o'clock in the whatever later on." And then like we're out. And my friend was like, "Oh, I'll have a few beers," and I was like, "Oh, I don't want to." And then we ended up like and they hadn't sent me any timings through, so I was just like drinking. Like, oh, it's gonna be fine. And then like 11 o'clock, I'm really drunk. I get a text like, "Oh, can you be in 10:25 a.m. tomorrow?" And I was just like, "Oh, like yeah, sure." And it was the worst thing ever. I was like, not okay. Get to this thing. It was probably the worst thing I've ever done, and it was so stupid. Like. I left it like, oh no, like they're gonna think I'm such a weirdo, because I could barely like listen to what they were saying. They were talking to me like, "Oh, like what kind of music do you listen to?" And I'd just be like, "What?" Like they must have thought I was on drugs or something. Like they were, So that was probably the worst thing.
A similar one there, where slightly different, no alcohol involved, but miscommunication. So it was actually an audition for Grace Carter, but
nice.
I got the email through, and it was auditioning for bass and guitar. Now I read it. I took that as auditioning for bassists and guitarists. But I turn up there, and they're like, "You got the guitar as well." I was like, I didn't
What?
realize it was. Yeah. This is literally it. So bear in mind, I've got here early. I'm prepped all of this, and then I get here, and long story short, I end up like learning the guitar part in 10, 5 to 10 minutes in a back room because she was like, you're here now. We'll do it anyway. And it was
Yeah,
kind of one
right
of
as
those.
well.
Yeah, it was one of those ones from that moment on. I think we both kind of knew I wasn't gonna get the gig. Not like it wasn't. Yeah, it was just a misunderstanding on
Yeah.
on my part there. But I was just like, I've never heard of a gig before, or even seen a gig where someone is the bassist and guitarist. But I guess
Mm,
that's the new world with tracks and wanting to keep the numbers as small as possible.
yeah.
I mean, you had that with Sody when you were doing
Yeah.
keys and bass,
Yeah. Yeah, we
mostly
used to,
keys, weren't you?
yeah, well, yeah, at first when I started playing with her, that was at uni, and we had like keyboards, but it was mainly samples and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, you'd play bass for a bit, and then like the verse would come, and you'd be like doing some rhythmic, like that was sick. I well enjoyed doing that. That was really fun. But then, because like me and Sody are like really good, like close. We're like really good friends.
Yeah.
She's like my little sister or something, you know. I've
Yeah.
like had loads of time for her, and she basically was like, "Oh, can you?" Because like, I can play a bit of keys, but I can only play what I know.
Yeah.
And
I
if
hear
that
you
makes
loud and
sense,
clear.
like I can play major 7 chords, and
Yeah.
they sound nice, and and that's all I can play, right?
But
So
you
like,
couldn't turn up and go to a jam or even
yeah,
a mild jam
yeah. If
and
someone, yeah, like someone, as if they called chords out that I knew, that would be fine. But
yeah.
like, if that's it. So she was like, "Oh, can you play keys like for this little tour thing we're doing?" And I was just like, "Oh, I don't know, like." Do I even play keys? But then I was like, fuck it, like I'm gonna say yes because I
Yeah.
can, and because I knew her music and stuff. But yeah, that was weird. That was like my first ever gig on keys, and that was really fun. But it is hard, like learning a song, you know, because I'd never learnt a song on keys. And they're simple stuff. It's not like crazy harmony. It's
Yeah.
really nice songs, but it's like not singer songwriter, but you know, it's her with her piano. She's
Yeah.
not like a jazz virtuoso or
Mhm.
anything. Like um, so it's a lot of it was like triads and nice chords, but it's just like even that was insanely hard. I was so nervous, but at the same time, I was there like I should do this because like it's good.
Well,
It's good
yeah,
to be able to
this is
write
the thing
that
now. It
and
looks like there's a lot more demand for the multi-instrumentalist,
mm,
regardless of what instrument it is that is your main instrument right now.
yeah, no,
So it's going to be all really. Where do you see this all going when we open back up? If you like, do you
yeah.
think it's going to be different? Do you think it's going to be the same? Obviously, we're all guessing and speculating
Yeah,
right now.
yeah.
The whole industry is on pause, but
Mm. Well, I don't really know. Like, I try not to think about it negatively too
yeah,
much because like you could get really depressed about it and just be like, we're all gonna like everything's gonna die and everything's it's the end of the world and like music's not gonna come back. But I
no,
like
it's gonna come. I think it's gonna
yeah,
come back. It's
I
just,
I like
I,
to think
it might look a bit
optimistically about
different.
it. Yeah, I feel like, especially in the UK, like if everyone can't, basically, I feel like the year we come back, hopefully next year, and festivals and stuff can start again, I feel like everyone's going to be like, let's go, like we need to go. Like, I want to think that there'll be this like amazing period, or like golden years, like it was like
Yeah,
after
yeah,
the
yeah.
war and stuff, like World War II happened, and then there was like all these crazy arts and stuff. I know it's not a war or anything, but like that same kind of thing where people have
Mhm.
been held in and not allowed to go out to music and events and stuff. I really hope that it comes back to like I don't know, like a gig everywhere. You know, there's always things happening, and everyone's going to these festivals, and I want to think it will be like that, but who knows? You know, man. Like,
Yeah,
but
we're just gonna have to see on this one, aren't we?
yeah, it's really hard to say because when it first started happening, and there were people being like, "This is going to be bad," like musicians being like, "I feel like this is going to be really bad," and I was like, "Nah, it's fine. Like, it's only a small bit, and you know, it's like in China, and there's only a few cases."
Yeah.
And then it started spreading, and I was like, "Oh, it's fine." Like, I was just trying to keep positive on it.
Mm-hmm.
And then everything like lockdown happened and all that, and I was just like, oh man, like this is crazy, you know, like it's weird, but it's so
In
hard to
my
say
head,
because
I had it before we actually went into lockdown. I had it well, as soon as big, like, not even necessarily music events, but just big events in general started getting cancelled in Europe and that, and then they cancelled F1. I was like, right, okay, gigs are gonna stop.
yeah.
If F1 is stopping, gigs are going to stop.
Yeah.
So, but I thought we'd be back up and running by now.
Yeah, so that's the same as me. Like when it was first starting, I was like 6 months.
Thinking, yeah, July, August.
Yeah.
Will.
But yeah, I don't really know. But you know, I literally have no idea, and I try not to think about it too much because it does look bleak sometimes. You know, it can be a bit bleak because venues are closing. Yeah, and I can't imagine what it's like
You
for
know what?
artists that have
This is
put on
it.
tours and stuff that have
It's
to
gonna
cancel
be
tours.
really, really interesting because on the one hand, in theory, there should be more people or more demand for listening to music.
Mm.
So streams should be going up, but obviously streams, unless you're getting millions of streams every month, they're not necessarily paying the bills. And then where do instrumentalists slip into
Yeah,
this equation? Mm.
yeah, and I think that's
So this
hard
is
for the
going to be
government to
interesting.
even comprehend. Like you know, I think a lot of people who don't do creative work or whatever just assume that music is like Ed Sheeran and massive artists making loads of money.
Oh
But
yeah, tell
when
me, do you get when you tell when you tell people who don't work in this industry that you're a musician, do they instantly think you're an artist?
Not, well, usually they're like, oh, what do you do? And then I say, oh, bass. But I don't know. Usually you get this just like, oh, it's nice that you do what you love. And like, oh, but like, what would you do for your day job? And you're just like,
Yeah.
I
So
don't
what
know.
do you play at the pub?
Yeah. And, but luckily now, like, I haven't really had that so much. And I used to find that really awkward because it was just like, oh, you obviously don't get it. And also, I don't want to be here like, oh, I played like, you know, I've got such a great job. And,
Yeah.
but I did find occasionally it would be people who are doing more corporate-y things, or even at weddings, like you talk, there's this like drunk guy, like the groomsman or whatever, and he's like, oh, what do you do for your job? And they kind of like almost go, oh, like musician, like what?
Yeah.
Like that's, do you teach? And it's like, I don't teach, like I used to and stuff, but like, I don't know, like they have this kind of small, there's so many jobs in music that people just don't realize, I guess. And I didn't even realize, you
100%.
know, I didn't know there was like monitor engineers and stuff like this, like,
Bro, all
or
of
like
this.
techs. I just thought before I wanted to do it as a job, I thought you're in a band or you're not. Like that's
Well,
it.
yeah, that's it. That's exactly the thing. And it's like when I started getting into the media stuff myself, that was when my eyes opened up as well. I'm like, oh, this
Yeah.
this works quite well. Because I think the one difference between live gigs and more media related stuff is it's a lot more centralized. So usually it will be in a set location. You might have to travel to the location, but you're there in a hotel for a week or two, and you just go and record. It's more sociable hours, and depending on where it's being used, if it's TV or film, the contracts are nicer.
Mm.
But obviously, it's not the same as playing a big gig in
Yeah.
terms of feel.
Yeah. But then again, I guess there's that, like, it's like, what if that's I don't know. When I went to uni, I was like, oh, I only want to play a big gig and I want to do a big pop gig, and like I was like, and people who don't do that are like, oh, they're not proper. I'd be like, oh,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't want to just be doing functions, blah, blah, blah. But then you meet people who are like, they wanted to do functions and that's all they wanted to do, and they're
Honestly,
earning like $2,000 a gig or something.
Literally,
And you're
I
just
was
like,
speaking
whoa, like
to well, not speaking to Craig David. I was speaking to Don Chandler.
Me and Craig.
Me and Craig way back. No, I was speaking to Don Chandler, who played bass for. I think he was on tour with Craig David.
Mm.
There's a few other things, but he lives in the same town that I do, and I was just speaking to him, and he was breaking down to me that, to be honest, a lot of these pop gigs now, it was different before, but now a lot of the gigs, unless it's like major, you can be earning more doing functions.
Yeah, that is definitely the truth. And also, I don't know, when I was at uni, I think I just had this young mindset of like, I'm gonna be the best and all this, and now I realize, like some people don't want to do big pop gigs. They're like, they don't care. They don't want to do that at all. They want to be like in a metal band, or they want to like play functions, or they want to teach.
Pit work, man.
Or exactly this. And
pit work is good pay. Me
yeah,
personally,
and it's all valid. It's all like that's
exactly.
all sick. You're doing music as a job, man. Like that's sick. Do you know what I mean? At the end of the day, you're doing what you want to do.
I hack doing the same show 6 days a week for like 3 to 6 months personally, but then again, if I was on some of their salaries, maybe I'd change my mind.
Yeah, it'd be nice to go in like a Bentley to that show.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I think it's all valid work, man. It's all, you can't compare it.
100%.
Like, yeah. And I guess music generally, you can't compare anyone. Like, that's another thing I struggle with at uni and stuff. I'd want to be like the best. Like, I want to play crazy stuff and like do crazy slap and all this, and like, or I wanted to do R&B and kind of like don't know, that kind of like modern R&B poppy, like where it's like drums doing sick stuff, bass players like, and like, and still to this day that would be a sick gig to do. But like, I'd forget that, like I'd think, oh, the metal bass players now they're not very, they're not good. But like actually, like they are. You can't,
no.
or anyone like ska bass player or whatever, like a blues bass player, like you've got to know that genre.
Blues is hard to do well.
Yeah. And even like it sounds easy and stuff, but it's not. And I don't know. I think that's something that in these past couple years I've kind of been less thinking about. Like, I don't know, just realizing that like rock or whatever still is equally. There's no hierarchy. It's like, oh, I play for Beyonce, so I'm the best. It's like, it's not like that. And it's like everyone's level, and it's just I don't really know what I'm trying to say here, but yeah, it's like I don't know. I think I struggled a lot. I'm total tangent now, but I struggled a lot with like, and I still do with like playing and stuff. Like, say, being on stage or at a jam night and playing and wanting to sound good, and like, oh, this guy's watching me, or like watching guys on Instagram, and you're like, oh man, like. You watch like Sheree Reed or someone who's like a gospel guy is brought up in that stuff, and I'm there like, why can't I play gospel lines? It's like, because I'm not, I didn't grow up in
most
that.
Gospel people can't play Sheree.
Well, yeah, no, exactly. But then it's the same.
Though a lot of people don't realize Sheree Reed, he had like classical training. Like I think he started on, I think it was a brass or woodwind instrument.
Oh, really?
Like he can read. Like, yeah. Like because I think there's a lot of, and I can talk coming from the gospel side of things. I grew up around it, but there's a lot of how do I say this? No, I'm just going to call it out. So a lot of gospel musicians will almost view learning to read and learning theory not quite as almost as cheating,
Mm.
you know, or it's like, you know, it's almost like you're less talented because you studied
Mm.
and that
Like it should all just come. You should be able to hear
it should
it and
just
all that.
all be it, and that's not true. Most church musicians who end up a lot of church musicians who end up doing work outside of that, they recognize and appreciate the skills and how, like,
Mm.
say, basic theory and reading can help them. They don't necessarily know, some do, but they can appreciate it.
Yeah.
But I have seen other people that just, they're kind of, it's almost like the opposite of very classically trained people,
Mm.
where there's a lot of very classically trained people who are like, this is the way, it has to be classical, has to be written. If it doesn't fall within a certain number of structures,
Mm.
then it's not proper music, that kind of thing. There is the other end of the spectrum where they're like, ear is everything, and
Yeah. I think it's finding a balance of that,
yeah,
and
definitely.
it's all about, for me, it's all about like not judging other people in what they're doing for anything, like I don't know. That's what I struggle with at uni and being on Instagram, was I'd compare myself to people and
Yeah,
be like, or just be like, oh, listening to someone. And this was like ages ago, and it definitely wasn't as toxic as this. That I'm gonna make this sound like I was being a right like idiot, But I'd be listening to someone like, oh no, like that wasn't groovy enough, or like, oh no, and then that would then go into my head of when I'm playing, and it got to a point of like I couldn't even touch the bass without being like, you're so bad, I hate everything that you're doing.
yeah,
To
you
me,
suck the enjoyment right out
yeah.
of it.
Well, recently and always, I've always been like, what if someone wants to do something and learn that way or play music that way? Like, it's cool. I don't like do it. Like, it's great. But I think especially now, I'm trying not to. If I listen to someone play bass and I start like analyzing or being like, oh, am I better than that, or any kind of thoughts like that, I'm
Yeah,
just like,
yeah.
shut up, like turn that off, like don't.
Hmm.
It's not even worth thinking about that, because like
Well, it's all subjective anyway, isn't it?
yeah, and
To
that's
a
just not.
certain extent.
Yeah.
So here's the thing, right? Once you reach a certain level of skill, whether you get the gig or not, usually there's a lot of other factors. Once you get to a certain skill level or a certain level of gig that you're auditioning for, everyone is more than capable of playing the
Mm,
part.
yeah.
So then it becomes more of a thing about personal preference and
Yeah.
what it is that they're actually looking for in other roles on that. How have you
Yeah.
found, like, personal qualities in terms of going on tour? What would you say, like, makes a good tour bandmate?
Oh,
Or
well, that's.
even the opposite, what would make a
Well,
bad?
it's a bad one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I'd just like start off with saying like I don't have enough. I've done like a few tours and stuff, but I'm not like a veteran or anything like that. So
Yeah, but
before, yeah,
within
yeah,
your experience.
I try and just be like nice and happy and like willing to do stuff. I think it's just like you just got to be really aware of, for example, if you're on like a tour bus thing, like, and there's 12 of you on a bus or whatever, like that is your home, and then you're constantly with these people. And I think it's just being conscious of like, if someone's like, oh, I'm gonna go and walk here and like talk, I'm just gonna have a phone call, and for you to not be like, oh, I'll come as well, like. And
Yeah,
sometimes
yeah,
you
yeah,
should be like, oh, I'll come, because they want you to come. But it's like stuff like that, like
yeah.
little things, just being. You just gotta be nice, man. I think that's it. Like nice, and like just not, just yeah. I think the only times I've felt uncomfortable on gigs is when someone's like actually being, excuse my French, but like a dick, like they're all being really
And that's
arrogant,
used a lot.
or
Yeah.
yeah, it's and I think that's what someone, I think it was probably Dave again. He's had so many moments in my life where he said something that's maybe someone said to him, and he's like saying, "Oh, this guy's," but they've stuck with me. And he was like, "Oh, it's not about like how well you can play. It's like, can you live for 6 months with this person?" Like, and stuff like that. That is more important. Like, because at the end of the day, the gig is like a 1.5 hour or a half an hour part of the day.
You literally are living with them, especially
Yeah.
on a bus.
Yeah, and like on a bus, and then with like Apre a few times, you know, we're sharing rooms and stuff. We're in a van, and then we're just like in a room together, and it's like you have to just, I don't know, like you could be, I guess, the worst example, not example, but like to be the worst guy ever on a tour, in my opinion. Not that I've ever met anyone like this, but it just to like be an arrogant, horrible person that smells and is late all the time and isn't clean and you know, and like stuff like that. Like, imagine you're like in your bunk or whatever, and the guy below you's just like farting all the time and like and just like going like spitting on the floor, you know, like, and you're like, "Oh, how you doing?" It's like, "Shut up, mate." Like, "Oh, I'm busy." You know, like that would be the worst. You just want someone, I don't know. I think it is just about being nice, and I swear everyone says that when someone's like, "Oh, how do you get gigs?" It's like, just be nice sometimes.
There must be something behind it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is. This is the thing. It's like once you hit a certain level of ability, I think a lot less weighs on your skill level compared to like personal qualities. Like,
yeah, and there's definitely like, you know, it definitely does help to be like try and be the best, or like, you know, try and have something extra you can do. But yeah, I do think it is mainly like personal qualities. Like, I wouldn't say I'm like the most amazing bass player in the world, but like I've been able to do a couple gigs and hold them down because we just get on with people, you know, and like, and you make genuine connections, you know, like that's what you want. You want to come off a tour as best mates, like a family almost. You don't want to come off, you don't want to like just be like, "Oh my God, not this guy again," or whatever.
That I don't have much experience with that, so I've been fortunate there with the little bits that I've done for you know, not to be working with people that just make your life a misery.
Yeah,
because
that's the worst.
I can only
like,
imagine being if the stuff that I have done where I have been, you know, working with someone for a month or so, or a group of people, you don't have that spatial distance, or even longer than that, and you're with someone who just grates on your nerves.
Yeah, that's like the worst, because one day that's just gonna blow and something bad's gonna happen. Like, if you're away for long enough, you know, that's just gonna build up, and it's just not. Yeah, it's not worth it, I don't think. I think I think in life people should just be nice. Like, that's generally like always been my thing of like, I just try and be nice.
This is
like,
Matt's sermon.
Yeah. Hear ye. I just think you just gotta be nice, man.
No, I 100%.
Just generally in life. I always thought that even I used to work at Waitrose, you'd get like customers that would just treat you like a dog, and like, you know, they'd
usually
scream.
It's the higher end stores, isn't it?
Yeah. And like,
I used to
my
work at
hometown's
Ralph
quite.
Lauren, and it was I would have got paid more working at Tesco.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's quite depressing actually.
Yeah.
But it was like you say, it usually is the more quote unquote well off that will treat you badly.
Yeah, that's, in my experience, it is that. Yeah, like my hometown's quite middle class. It's like, you know, it's like a commuter town, so I guess generally, yeah, it's like quite well off, and most people there are lovely. But yeah, you get the people who are just like, it'd be Christmas, I get it, the turkey that you ordered's not there, but like, it's not my fault. Like, I don't run the turkey business.
Back
you know,
to the store, you know, pick up a van and go and drive and find their turkey.
Or it's like, I was like, "Oh, that's like Mrs. Smith's turkey, let's burn it." Like, I start, you know, And that used to annoy me. And from then on, I think that was like an early time. I'd never want to be rude to anyone working ever, like unless they're being rude, like servers or whatever. I've always thought, why ever go at someone serving your food for something that they didn't do? Like, you know, it's not. I don't know. I just think generally in the world, you just got to be nice to people, really, and make genuine connections. That's another thing actually. Is you don't want to be like they're like faking it, you know,
handing out your business card left, right, and center.
Yeah, and just being like, you're like, you know, really friendly, and if that's who you are, like, be really friendly, but you just got to be legit, man. And people see through it. Everyone can see through stuff. I'm sure you've met someone before in any situation where you're like, this is a bit weird, like, so, you know, I don't feel like they're being genuine right now or whatever, like so I think that's an important thing with music, and touring and stuff, but it's hard sometimes, you know. There is also going to be times, and this hasn't happened again, but I'm sure if you're like Guns N' Roses or someone and you do like a 20-year tour, you know, like you're just always out, there's going to be times where you're going to fall out, you know, and stuff. And it's being able to deal with that as well. And I've never really had that, like, arguments or anything like that, but yeah, it's just learning to deal with like those tensions, and if, you know, if someone wants, I don't know, you just got to be like quite personable and be ready to kind of, you know, if you're annoying someone you don't even realize and they tell you, then you should be like, okay, I'm gonna remember that they said that, you know, I don't like,
make note of it.
And just be like, oh, sorry, that's not my mic, hopefully that wasn't really just stuff like that is quite important, I think. I don't know, I'm young and I haven't done many gigs, you know, so there's probably other things, but
I mean, that's probably a good place for us to wrap up, because we're about 1 hour 25 minutes in.
Oh, we really? Oh my goodness.
Monster episode. But no, that's wicked, man.
Sorry for just chatting on rubbish.
It's all good.
Talking about Waitrose loads.
This is going to be wicked. I'm sure it's going to interesting conversation for anyone who's interested in music to see generally, and then also especially for people who are studying now or have studied and are just pushing for getting into music. Kind of a bad time for it, but it might also be a good time, because there's probably going to be a lot of changeovers between who's doing what in this time.
One thing I will say to like people at uni and stuff is just like be nice to yourself as well. Like that is so important. I left uni like literally hating myself playing. There was moments where I wanted to just give up music because of how you're taught to like analyze everything. So I'm just saying, like, if you're at uni, and just be nice, and like it's cool to not be the best at playing slap, you know, like you are yourself, and you're gonna be loved for that if you're genuine. And you know, that's an important thing, is just to like believe in yourself, you know. Believe in yourself. Because I didn't, you know, stuff like that, and I still don't sometimes, you know. And the mental health side of things is like really important as much as playing all the time. It's all good practicing, but if you hate what you're playing because you're destroying yourself inside, then like you've got to love playing it. Basically, you didn't start playing bass to like hate your playing and overanalyze yourself, if you know what I mean.
This is it.
So yeah. Sorry, because just that was one thing that really like messed with me for ages. So
it's good.
Yeah.
To be fair, at the end of first year, I was in a similar way where I was just ready to give up. I actually looked at an application form for to be like an Audi mechanic apprenticeship. Like, I took out the application form because I was just like, I've had enough of this. Like you say, just that comparison thing.
Yeah.
But then I stuck it out and never regretted it.
Yeah. It's important to just be good to yourself. And like, don't believe everything you see on Instagram either.
Very true. You know what? I
Like
had this
you can be
conversation
so
with
busy
someone.
with no gigs, if you know what I mean. Like, there were times when I wouldn't have a gig for like 2 months, and I'm just like every day like posting a picture or whatever. And it's like,
Yeah.
you know, that was another thing I struggled with, seeing everyone doing stuff or
No,
playing.
it's a big thing. It's a big thing
Like,
because you
yeah.
can look on Instagram and you think, why does everybody have work except me?
Mm.
Until you actually speak to them and you realize they've not had gigs for like 2 months.
Yeah. Well, they're in the same boat as you, and like, yeah, you're both just like, oh, this is what, you know, yeah.
Yeah. Or even they're just in a busy period, and the reason you didn't see anything from them before is because there wasn't a lot going on.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's not always the case, but yeah, Instagram should not be your measure of what
Yeah.
people are or aren't doing.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the tutor at college said, he was like, look, like you don't post on Instagram when you failed. You know, oh, today I played the whole set a half a tone down, and you know, like, oh, and I didn't get this gig today. Oh, and I applied for this. You never post that. You only go like, look at this. You know, you see the top 1% of someone's stuff. So that's something for younger people or whatever people playing now. Like, that's something so important to not judge everything by Instagram and all that stuff.
Definitely.
Just be nice to yourself. Be nice to everyone.
That's wicked. On that note, people,
yeah, sorry.
I will. No, it's wicked, man. It's wicked. Yeah, if you want to see more from this, subscribe, comment below what you think. I'm gonna add Matt. What's your handle on Instagram, Matt? I'll
I
add
think
it
it's at Matt Dinnadge Music.
Yeah,
I'm
so that will
pretty
be
sure
in the
that's on
bottom
my
here.
Instagram.
And then also comment who else you would like to see or hear from. But until then, people, next time.